So we are in the logical framework approach, and we just looked at analysis of project context, and we brought up SWOT analysis, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis. Let's now move on to the so-called stakeholder analysis, which is also very important to make sure that capacity building for resilience in the logical framework approach happens effectively and efficiently. The second step of the logical framework approach for capacity development is often referred to as the stakeholder analysis. In this step, the project, I want to what did I do? Did I just jump out? The stakeholder analysis. The second step of the logical framework approach for capacity development for resilience is often referred to as the stakeholder analysis. In this step, the project team of internal and external partners identify and analyze who would be directly or indirectly influencing or influenced by the prospective capacity development initiative. These actors can be divided into beneficiaries, decision-makers, implementers, and financiers. Though it is important to note that one actor can belong to multiple categories simultaneously. This again should remind you of sustaining the commons and action arena, action situation, hierarchies, and the rules. So the rules to be followed by beneficiaries are different than decision makers and implementers and financiers, and if a person is belonging to multiple categories, then the person has to follow different rules when in a different situation. Even in the same project or program, a beneficiary, I kind of misread it. So when we said we will have beneficiaries, decision makers, implementers, and financiers, this can happen even in the same project or program in terms of a person belonging to multiple categories. A beneficiary is in this context is an actor whose interests are served by the project or program. A decision maker is an actor in a position to change the benefits and the beneficiaries in some sense. An implementer is realizing its activities as planned and agreed upon. Results proposed and goal are also under the implementer, and a financier is funding the project or the program as agreed upon in the design and before implementation. Stakeholder analysis is critical to the success of capacity development projects or programs, since all categories of actors have important information to share and roles to play in the prospective capacity development initiative. Stakeholder analysis is the first step of identifying and engaging these actors more systematically, as we'll see in a minute. Without such endeavor, problems are almost certain to arise, and there are numerous examples of projects and programs in which central actors were not sufficiently involved in the design process, leading to poor results in terms of inefficient or ineffective implementation and failure on the deliverables of the capacity development and the benefits to the beneficiaries. Okay, so 4 categories of actors and 3 particular roles. You have beneficiaries, decision makers, implementers, and financiers that we already mentioned. Then you have experts, guarantor of success, advocate for those affected but not involved. Okay, so these are the roles to be played by these people. So in addition to considering who are beneficiaries, decision makers, implementers, and financiers, the stakeholder analysis also includes explicit consideration of who are assigned to 3 particular roles in capacity development for resilience. So who's the expert, who's the guarantor of success, and who's going to advocate for those who are affected but not involved, do not have agency in the capacity development in this logical framework analysis. Logical framework approach, right? So The stakeholder analysis also includes explicit consideration of who are assigned to three particular roles in capacity development for resilience. First of all, it's important to contemplate who is to be considered an expert in each specific capacity development project or program, as we saw here. However, not only formal expertise is vital here, as repeatedly pointed out in the second part of this book, where we looked at approaching the world. For example, if members of a disaster-prone community are invited to share their understanding and experiences of the situation the project program is intended to address them, then this does not only bring vital local knowledge of the issues at hand to the table, but is also likely to spur interest, commitment, and ownership when the community members see how their how their input influences the design and capacity of the initiative, the design of the capacity development initiative. Okay, so agency, ownership are important, plus when you consider indigenous knowledge, experiential knowledge, then you're also going to be very region specific, location specific in your capacity development initiative. Otherwise you're going to come in with a blueprint and start to follow some algorithm without context of what is locally happening and what people not only experience but how they perceive the local impacts and experiences, right? Secondly, broad participation of actors demands explicit assignment of the responsibility for assuring that the project or program will result in the expected improvement. In other words, all involved actors should know where they could seek some guarantee that improvement will be achieved by the project. This responsibility needs to be assigned to one or to an organized group of the more influential actors involved, as we saw. Otherwise, the overall responsibility of the project or program is blurred and accountability is severely reduced. So they must have a go-to person or go-to organization which answers questions or the perceptions they are having about what the project is achieving and what it is supposed to achieve and how it is supposed to benefit them, for example, or at least not negatively impact them. Finally, it's important for legitimacy to include some actor who explicitly argues the case of those who cannot speak for themselves and who seeks the emancipation of those affected but not involved. For instance, marginalized groups, future generations, the environment itself, and so on. Environment is something that needs to be protected by design, but the environment cannot speak for itself. So who speaks for the environment? Without such an advocate, the risk of the project or program causing collateral damage or unintended consequences even increases significantly. It's obviously impossible to consider the well-being of all possible actors or aspects of the human environment systems across space and time, but explicitly assigning an advocate for that or advocates for that purpose is a big step in the right direction. Kind of an ombudsman or an office of ombudsmen, ombudspersons. The most central parts of the stakeholder analysis are presented here in box 9.3. So summary of stakeholder analysis then. The stakeholder analysis can be summarized as the answer to 4 questions. Who are the beneficiaries, decision makers, implementers, and financiers? Who is considered an expert and what counts or should count as relevant knowledge in making someone an expert so that they can provide input? What or who is assumed to be the guarantor of success? So you have people who are beneficiaries, decision makers, implementers, and financiers. The financial person is just committing to financing. Is it the financier's responsibility to guarantee success, or is it the implementer, or is it the decision maker? This is not always clear. Beneficiaries are clearly not responsible for guaranteeing success. So who is the advocate for interests of those affected but not involved and for securing their emancipation, in this case making sure that they are in fact benefiting from capacity development initiatives so that their own resilience is also visibly, quantifiably improving. right? So let's leave this podcast here and come back and look at the situation analysis, right? That's the next step of the logical framework approach. I keep saying analysis. Logical framework approach to capacity development for resilience. See you in the next podcast.